Hey everyone, time to learn some new Tier 2 words. This week's words are deceive, rational, irrational, eloquent, notorious, and conundrum. Starting us off is the verb deceive. Deceive means to mislead or lie. If you have anybody that's betrayed you, tricked you, or fooled you, chances are they've deceived you because it means the same thing. You have the deceiving, deceived, and deception all meaning the same thing in terms of misleading or lying. Okay? And I'm sure a couple of us have also gone through the whole stage of where we deceived somebody, maybe about homework and what happened to it. The sentence for the example is, my cat deceived my dog by pretending to be sleeping. So if I think about it, my cat is tricking my dog or fooling my dog into thinking he's sleeping. This is a great character trait for English class if you have a deceiving character, like Dally would have been a deceiving character. It also could be a tone in terms of like, am I deceiving you or am I not? And then in social studies, if you remember back, the colonists tried to deceive the British by dressing as Native Americans during the Boston Tea Party. And then there's countless other times in social studies where people were really trying to fool or trick somebody, and those would be deceiving. Use that verb to replace some weaker words. The next word is rational, which is an amazing adjective because it replaces the word of reasonable, normal, or realistic. You can say, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that's rational. Okay? You have rationally or rationalize as other forms of the word. The sentence for the example is, it is rational to expect homework in middle school. If you came in here thinking you weren't going to have homework, you weren't being rational. Rational thinking, rational behaviors, these are all things that are normal or reasonable. Again, this is definitely a character trait. I think Sal is a pretty rational character. Ponyboy is a rational character. There's also, if you're thinking about conflict and the way people react to conflict, if they're going about a conflict or the problem of the story by, following a normal and reasonable expectation of, they acted like, oh, that's a normal reaction for that, then they're thinking rationally. They're not like a hot mess running all over the place. When creating the government in social studies, they were really trying to be rational. Any army general laying out their battle plans, if it's a plan that clearly makes sense, they were being rational. For math and science, following the math formulas and procedures is also something you want to do because it's rational. The opposite word is the adjective irrational. If we look at this IR right here, IR means not. It's a prefix for not, and it means not rational, okay? Which means, if you look at the definition, to not make sense. So there you go. You have the other form of the word irrationally, and this basically takes the place of the words ridiculous, unrealistic, or absurd, okay? So the sentence I used is, it is irrational to expect a perfect score in bowling when you just start out. It's also irrational to think your Lexile score is going to go up if you don't actually read. Irrational just means it doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous, okay? It's also a character trait, and it's also if somebody's reacting to an event or a conflict and they don't do it in any way that makes sense, like Phoebe, she's a rather irrational person. Like, oh my God, my mom's been kidnapped, blah, 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 blah. That's irrational. Math or science, not following any procedures or equations, that would be irrational. And then, or if your hypothesis just doesn't make sense, that's also the case. Social studies, think of it. Some of these you're learning about, I believe, the Civil War, or you will be, and battle plans that are like, why would you do that? Why would you have your soldiers run uphill when the enemy is firing down on you? Does that make any sense? No, it's irrational. Eloquent is a beautiful adjective, and I feel like the word eloquent sounds like it means. It's like eloquence. You have a speech or actions that are powerful and really well spoken. I think of people that speak very clearly. They use beautiful vocabulary and their sentence structure is sophisticated. Those people are eloquent. You have eloquently and eloquence, okay? And it means articulate, fluent, or well spoken. Martin Luther King's definition of peace was eloquent, and at the time seemed genuinely effective. It means it was just well written and it was powerful. Okay? This is a character trait for somebody who is well spoken and is really kind of composed and sophisticated. It also can be a tone. In social studies, I think of any of our great leaders like George Washington. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address was extremely eloquent. It sounds like the word elegant, and that actually could be a pretty good connection to help you remember it because it is something that's powerful, well spoken, and gets the point across well. Okay, so Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, definitely eloquent. Notorious. Literally cannot say this word without singing it. But it's notorious, I guess. I had to do it. And this is an adjective, and it means it's widely known in a bad way. Notoriously is the other form, and it means basically the same thing as infamous, dishonorable, or shameful. Okay, so I have the sentence, the thieves in Home Alone were notorious for leaving the water on and the sinks clogged, so the house flooded. It just means they were widely known. Everybody in that area kind of knew them, but it was for a bad thing. You definitely don't want to be notorious. This is a character trait. Daly was rather notorious. I mean, he had a bad reputation, but so did the greasers. The greasers were notorious. Even if not all of them were bad, they had that like reputation. Okay, it's another way of saying a bad reputation. If you think it's social studies, you got Hitler, you've got the British rule before the Revolutionary War, you've got slavery, you've got the Trail of Tears. I mean, you take something that's known for bad or negative reasons, and you can say the word notorious. But you should always go, notorious. Used to be a famous rapper, Notorious B.I.G. He thought he was pretty cool. Biggie Smalls. All right. Last word is conundrum. It's a noun, which means it's a problem. The noun is not the problem. Conundrum is a problem. There are no other forms of this word, but it's a challenge, a puzzle, or a conflict. And this is a great way to replace the word conflict or problem or obstacle. Okay, if the characters are in a conundrum, they have a problem. If a expert person in science is running into some issues with their lab, they're in a conundrum. They don't know how to fix it. It's a challenge or it's a puzzle. I use the sentence, the characters were in quite a conundrum when they killed the Soch, because they were. In English class, definitely replace the word conflict here. Use the word obstacle or use the word conundrum. You've got a variety of choices now. Anytime in social studies you were talking about them agreeing on the Bill of Rights or agreeing on the Constitution or the rules, they were in a conundrum because people had different opinions and then they had to work together. Again, conflict. Health, I always think of brainstorming ways to solve problems. And to be quite honest, I find peer pressure to be quite a conundrum for most people, just because you want to make sure your friends are happy, but at the same time, you're like, dude, I don't want to do that. So just do what you want to do and make sure it's safe and not going to hurt you. But it is a conundrum trying to deal with it. All right, well, I guess that concludes our words for this week. I hope you had a wonderful time learning these new words, and I cannot wait to see them in your writing. Hugs and kisses, and I hope you have a wonderful day.